Hey everybody, welcome to Chapter 2. We're going to be starting Chapter 2 today with our first lesson of the day being segment bisectors. So we're going to be talking about how to bisect a segment, finding the coordinates of the midpoint of a segment, and doing different things along those lines. Okay, so here we vocab words. I want you to write this down. It says a midpoint of a segment is the point on the segment that divides it into two congruent segments. So if I have a midpoint, I'm going to look at, here's our line segment. Our midpoint is going to be right in the middle, right in the exact middle. And what that does is that separates those two sides into the exact same measurement. A segment bisector is a ray or line or plane that intersects a segment at its midpoint. So if I drew a line here going right through that point, that blue line right there would be a segment bisector. And to bisect a segment means to divide the segment into two congruent segments. So if I just tell you that that is a line, or sorry, a segment bisector or a line bisector, that is going to be, or to tell you that both sides are going to be equal. All right? So it looks like this. It says if M is the midpoint, you don't have to write this down. If M is the midpoint of AB, then AM, which is this very first segment here, is equal to MB, which is the second one. Okay? So if I just tell you the information of AB being 6, you can already conclude, knowing this part right here, that M is the midpoint, that AM is 3 and MB is 3. Okay? What I do want you to write down, there's a couple of pieces. I want you to stop right at PQ is congruent to RS. You do not have to write anything after PQ is congruent to RS. But, so stop right at this line. But I do want you to also draw this. I want you to be able to know what those tick marks mean. So take a moment and write. It says congruent segments are segments that have the same length. In the diagram, PQ is equal to RS, so you can write PQ is congruent to RS, and your congruency symbol is going to look like that with a little squiggle on top. It says this is read as segment PQ is congruent to segment RS. Tick marks are used in a figure to show congruent segments. So in the previous example that I showed you, I used these wonderful tick marks, and they just say right here, they just say that PQ is congruent to RS, that those two lengths are the exact same length. All right. Okay, so here's a couple examples. You don't have to write this down. I'm going to go through these two, and then we'll have a couple examples on your own. So this says P is the midpoint of RS. Find PS and RS. Okay, so if I look at this, I know that P is the midpoint, which tells me that RP is going to be equal to PS. So if I know that RP is 7, I know that PS is going to be also 7 because of that, because of P being the midpoint. Now, if RP is 7 and PS is 7, remember that segment addition postulate. I can just add these two together, 7 plus 7, to get RS of 14. Okay, so just adding those two together to get 14. All right, second one, it says line L is a bisector of AB. Find the value of X. Now, the biggest part of these two sentences right here, bisector. That tells me that line L is a bisector of AB. It is at point M, becoming a bisector, which means it cuts AM equal to MB because of line L being the bisector. So that tells me that 5x is equal to 35. All right, and when we divide by 5 on each side, because we do the opposite, our answer is going to equal 7. So x is 7. All because we know what a bisector is and what our congruent tick marks mean. Awesome. Now here's one for you. I want you to give this one a shot. It's a little bit more difficult, couple more steps, but please give this one a shot and we will go over it. Alright, it says D is the midpoint of EF. ED is equal to 4x plus 6 and DF is equal to 7x minus 9. Find ED, DF, and EF. So we're finding all three measurements. Alright, we know for a fact, because of this piece of information right here, of D is the midpoint. We know for a fact, because of that ED is equal to DF. We know that. We know that these two are equal because D is the midpoint of the entire length of EF. So, what is ED? Is 4x plus 6. DF is 7x minus 9. We come up with an equation of 4x plus 6 is equal to 7x minus 9. Alright? Now, how do we solve for that? Well, we have to get our variables together and we have to get our numbers together. So, I'm going to move 4x to the right side, subtract by 4x, and when I subtract by 4x, I have 6 equal to 3x minus 9, because I subtracted 4x on both sides, got rid of it, now I have 3x minus 9 on the right. Now what I'm going to do, I have all of my variables combined, now I need to combine my numbers. So I'm going to keep my variables on one side, numbers on the other, so I'm going to add to bring that 9 to the other side, because we want our numbers on one side, variables on the other, and when we solve, we have 15 is equal to 3x. And when we're down to one last step, we divide by 3, because that is the opposite operation of what's happening between the 3 and the x, which means 5 is equal to x. Now, in your head, you should be thinking, all right, am I done? And your answer is no, we are not done yet. We found what x is, but the question asks, find ED, DF, and EF. So what we have to do is we have to plug 5 in for our equations and solve. Okay, so if I plug 5 in for these equations, because x equals 5, I have up top 4 times 5 plus 6 and 7 times 5 minus 9. Now, if you did your math correctly, both of these answers will be the exact same. 4 times 5 is 20, plus 6, we have 26. 7 times 5 is 35, minus 9, we also have 26. Now, you could be thinking, well, why would they be equal? Right here, it tells me that they are a midpoint, which means it cuts those two equal to each other. Okay, they should be the same. So, ED is equal to 26. DF is also equal to 26. Now, EF is going to be the entire segment. So we're looking at EF as a whole. So we have a partial of 26 on ED. We have a partial of 26 on DF. When we take those two partials, we need to add them together because of the segment addition postulate. We get EF equal to 52. And we're done. Alright, so a few extra steps in there, but in the end, once you find x, make sure you plug it back in. That's a common mistake. Don't make that mistake. Plug x back into the equation and solve for what they're asking you to solve. Alright, please write this down. This is the midpoint formula. Alright, so the midpoint formula, it says the midpoint M of AB with the endpoints of A being xy and B being xy is found at midpoint being x plus x over 2 and y plus y over 2. So you add your two x's together, divide by 2. Add your two y's, divide by 2. And that gives you your midpoint coordinate. Okay, so you're looking for a coordinate, and that's what we're going to find is a coordinate. You're given your two x's, add those together, divide by 2. You're given your two y's, add those together, divide by 2. Let's try an example. All right, it says find the coordinates of the midpoint of PQ with the endpoints P being at -8, 3, and Q being at -2, 7. So we are going to be finding the midpoint, and we know our midpoint formula. What is our midpoint formula? X1 plus X2 all over 2, and Y1 plus Y2 all over 2. Adding both of those and dividing by 2. So in coordinate P, what is our X value? It is going to be -8. Okay, so that -8, remember, it always goes X then Y. Don't forget about that. X then Y. So what's our X coordinate in point Q? It is going to be -2. So we're adding between these two. Okay, we're always adding the X coordinates and then dividing by 2. Then we are going to add the Y coordinates. Y coordinate of point P is going to be 3 plus point Q is 7. 3 plus 7 all over 2. Okay, and now we just solve for our equation. So we have -8 plus a -2, which is a -10 over 2. Don't forget, you still have to divide. And 3 plus 7, which is 10 over 2. When we solve here, because we want to get this in simplest form, take -2 divided by 2, you will get -5, and 10 divided by 2 is also 5. Don't forget about your parentheses. That is how a coordinate is said. So if we look at 0.55, we're looking at -5 here, going up to 5, going to be right there. The midpoint is going to be -5, 5. Found our X, found our Y. Add your X's together, divide by 2. Add your Y's together, divide by 2. That gives you your midpoint. Awesome! Last one. It says, find the coordinates of the place halfway between the two cities of California. Use the midpoint formula. Now, you might be asking yourself, why am I using the midpoint formula? Look at this word. Halfway. Halfway, you're finding the midpoint. The midpoint between two cities of California. You're given Santa Barbara and you're given Oakland. You're given those longitude and latitude values. Okay? See if you can use the midpoint formula and the longitude and latitude values and solve. Find where that midpoint would be, where that halfway point would be. Alright, so we're going to start off with using that midpoint. Remember, how do I use our coordinate pair? It always goes X, Y first. So again, using that midpoint formula. What is our midpoint formula? It is X1 plus X2 all over 2, that is an X, and Y1 plus Y2 all over 2. So adding our X values together, divide by 2, adding our Y values together, also dividing by 2. So what are our X values? Looking at Santa Barbara, what's our X, what's our Y? Well, it looks similar to our coordinate pair. That's our X, that's our Y. Same thing with Oakland, X, Y. Add our X values together, our X values being 34.4 plus 37.8, dividing by 2. 34.4 came from Santa Barbara, 37.8 came from Oakland. Then we have our Y values, 118.4 plus 122.3, all over 2. Okay, adding these together, then we're going to divide by 2. So 34.4 plus 37.8, when we add those together, you get 72.2 over 2. And 118.4 plus 122.3, we get 240.7 all over 2. Don't forget, whenever you're adding your decimals together, you need to line up your decimals so you get the correct answer. Line up your decimals when adding decimals. Alright, so now we have 72.2 divided by 2. When we divide this, we come up with an answer of 36.1. And we come up with, for 240 240.7 divided by 2, we get an answer of 120.35. Now, if you come and give me that answer of 36.1 and 120.35, that is going to be incorrect. Why is that going to be incorrect? Think about it. Labels. You need your label, okay? So we need to talk about our x-coordinate is not just a coordinate. It's talking about degrees north. Look at the problem, 34.4 degrees north, 37.8 degrees north. So our answer is going to be degrees north. All right, 118.4 degrees north and degrees west and 122.3 degrees west. So our answer is 120.35 degrees west. Do not forget your labels when it talks about a word problem. Okay, can't forget them. Labels are still very, very, very important. All right, that's it. We're all set. Have a great day. Come back ready tomorrow to get it.